Good to see you.
Likewise. Yeah, great
Great.
to see everybody.
So let's start with by saying that I'm not properly dressed for this fireside chat, and I have to do.
Full change of outfit.
I have to change my outfit.
I like it. Fit number one coming. Woo! When in Miami. Yes. Love it. Looks amazing. You are officially an influencer now, so you're part of the
Perfect.
brand. Good job. You're exactly.
Perfect. Perfect.
We work really fast, so.
Okay. So before I ask the first question, I would like to start by saying this. So I've been working with customer value and customer value alignment for a while. I'm a consumer behavior researcher, and the reason I'm anticipating this is because we're going to talk a lot about customer value, and there's somehow this misunderstanding between customer experience and customer value. And recently, now in March 2023, there was this article at HBR showing how it is important and how challenging it is for companies, especially companies that are moving so fast as PUMA, to make sure that they're keeping customer value alignment within the organization and outside of the organization because they're so large. So customer experience is basically everything we're doing as a company to try to delight our customers and get them to spend more with us and to be loyal with the company. The companies can get very easily distracted by trying to delight their customers and not reaching their heart in the things that they perceive as value. So basically, customer value is a subset of all of the experiences that customers are perceiving. And that subset is what actually drives customers' behavior, again, for loyalty, for expenditure, lifetime value, and so on and so forth. And I know that that's hard because Puma has been dealing with so many different categories, so many different audiences, so many different countries, and we have to make sure that we can understand from her how you're tackling all those challenges. And let's start by saying that I know that you've been with Puma for 17 years, so there's probably a lot of great stories
Yeah.
behind that. So can we start from there?
Sure, absolutely. So first off, great to see everybody. Good to be here on a Grand Prix weekend in Cinco de Mayo in Miami. I'm sure this place is going to be a shit show in the next 48 hours. So I'm leaving on Saturday. So no, but yeah, no, I have. I've been with the brand for 17 years. I'm the vice president of Puma North America, and I've had the privilege of seeing the brand go through a lot of iterations. I think most of you probably know the Puma brand. Most people can immediately, recognize the cat or recognize, the fact that we've been a long-standing player in the sport industry. But what we stood for and what we stood for today, that's kind of, I'd say, been the journey. And I would say over the past, 10 years, I think what the brand has done to get sharper, to create, customer value and to create a little bit more, I would say, consistency is really say we're going to be, the fastest sports brand. We're never going to lose the fact that we design for not only sport but also for style purposes. But we are going to be, a legitimate, credible sport brand. So I think as soon as we made that pivot, that helped us to go, okay, well, to become a fast sport brand, what steps do we have to take? What product areas do we need to, focus on? How do we not lose again that, design element? But sharpening mission, going down that path, I think that that's helped a lot, and then everything around there. But yeah, the 17-year journey I've had there has been great. So that's where we're at today.
Amazing. So right now, uh, strengthening this position of being the sports brand or the mission statement forever faster,
Yep.
it's the thing for you. So what does that mean, and why this position is relevant to your customers? How did you come up with that mission statement, and why is it relevant for the customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So Forever Faster, which is kind of like our mantra and kind of our underlying ethos, and it's also external and consumer facing, I think is driving a lot of what we do. So when we talk about Forever Faster, it's in a few different ways. The first off is the way that we operate, internally, for instance, fastest to be solution oriented for our partners and our retailers, fastest when it comes to reacting to trends, fastest when it comes to pushing again the way that we operate, whether it's on the supply chain side or beyond. It also really inspires our product direction. So we talk about forever being essentially the heritage of the brand and the fact that we have a long-standing heritage, products that have been in our archive for years, credibility in places like running and basketball and motorsport that has just always been there. But then faster is about how we design for the future and how we innovate and how we move ourselves into the next generation. And I think it's helped us to again just be this kind of like guiding light that helps us to make decisions, to operate, and then also just to create a clear point of view for consumers in the marketplace.
Okay. Um, and in your view, how is the company evolving? Because as you diversify, like right now, you guys go all the way from CrossFit to Formula One.
Sure.
How do you confirm that you have a good product and a value proposition for all of these different segments? How do you keep it all tied together to forever faster?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of it has to do with no matter what category we're in, we're always, first and foremost, we're designing for the athlete. Or, for instance, okay, if you're talking about motorsport, we're designing for the drivers, we're designing for the motorsport community, but then we're also offering then what's the lifestyle appeal. If we're going into basketball, we're going to design great product that you can wear and perform and our athletes can put on court, but we're going to look at the end use of, also again, kind of style purposes. And same thing with soccer and running or whatever it may be. So we're always kind of starting with the like design DNA of innovation and technology and like, for the athlete or the person that wants to perform, but then always ending, I think, also with like design and taste and kind of infusion. So, and the speed concept, I think, is always interwoven there as well. So over the years, we've gone in and out of a bunch of different categories, but right now, I think we're the most focused on the categories in sport that we feel are the most authentic to Puma, as well as the most opportunistic for our brand when it comes to like growth and opportunity. And that's really helped us, I think, to also just sharpen like where we focus versus where we don't. But it's not easy, not easy when you're like in this industry and consumers move so quickly. You just have to, yeah, you have to be really like soulful. I think about what your brand stands for and where and when you invest in things and when you don't, and that's discipline. Discipline's hard for I'm sure a lot of organizations.
Yeah, and earlier this week when we were prepping, people don't know, but we prepped for this. When we were prepping,
Your outfit is by far better than mine, though. I feel
it.
like you crushed the prep on the outfit.
Uh, so you mentioned something about sports brand, and I loved it.
Yes.
Sports brand being an angle.
Hmm.
Can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's similar even to the so from a product standpoint, that idea that it's like performable but also style driven. When we talk about being a sport brand, it's not the same way in our competitors. And what I mean by that is we believe that sport has culture around it. So when we talk about, for instance, getting back into the basketball space, we didn't just think about okay, how do we create product and credibility and awareness on court. We said, well, what's the culture of basketball outside of that? And if you guys think about anyone that loves basketball, you know that there's a huge music influence. And look at the people that are courtside. You know that there's a fashion element. The idea of, the tunnel walk is a thing now. The idea that, you've got gaming and esports that are really heavily involved. So what we do is we think about sport culture as our lens to being a sport brand. So making sure that we're really credible and authentic to the actual, let's call it like pure parts of the sport, but then our marketing angles, our communications angles, the athletes that we work with, the ambassadors that we work with, the partnerships that we have, are also kind of I would say from the culture side. Motorsport's a really great example, for instance. Again, we're so fortunate to, be a huge part of the motorsport community. But we also have a lot of fun off track, and we have a lot that goes on because the motorsport culture is not just about, the drivers in F1. They also have amazing off track personalities, and the motorsport community enthusiasts love car clubs, and they want to talk about who their first Aston Martin, and things along those lines. So yeah, culture I think is a really big ingredient to who we are.
And I totally related to that. Like I'm a for real a big F1 fan, and and it's amazing when you notice that a brand it's actually shaping their position in a way that it's not going to be only about the competition,
Hmm.
but about the users and the consumers of that competition and everything else we do around it, which is great.
Yeah.
So another thing, since you've mentioned partners, I know that Puma has at least two different core partners. So we're talking about influencers and artists like Jay Z, Lewis Hamilton, Usain Bolt, and so many others like Dua Lipa. but you also have retailers,
Yes.
and you have this very strong mission of forever faster. Uh, and how do you make sure that as you're selecting your partners, both on the influencer side and also the large retailers, because
Mhm.
we're talking about different companies with
Yep.
different cultures,
Yep.
different teams. How do you make sure that your value proposition and your brand value proposition doesn't get lost?
Yeah. Um, it's a great topic. When it comes to, I would call it the ambassador and partnership side. So if we're going to work with a music artist or an athlete or a licensed partner or whatnot, for us, it has a lot to do with authenticity and also like deeply rooted aligned brand connections. Meaning that there are athletes that are absolutely incredible, but they like don't like the Puma brand, and that's okay, you know, or they, for instance, are building their brand in a way that maybe doesn't fit with like our values. And so I think, you know, again, when we look at any kind of potential partnership, it has to be rooted in like, are those two brands going to come together authentically, and our consumers going to feel like that's a natural fit? Because we talk about internally the bullshit factor with consumers these days, which is like, consumers know right away if something is paid or if it's forced or whatnot. Like, you're going to know if like a music artist is not authentically into that brand. So authenticity and shared brand values and I think goals is super critical to us. And honestly, we really look at them as partners. We have, you know, the Puma fam, as we call it. So anyone that we work with, like, we don't just embrace as a transactional partner. We really look at them as like truly, you know, like a collaborative, you know, partnership. And that's, I think, on the partner and external side. And then, like you said, we look at our retailers as partners. They're not just places for people to buy Puma product. They have their own missions, their own visions, their own consumer, you know, segments. And I do think that we place a lot of strategic importance on also building relationships with certain retailers. And our commercial business has done a great job, you know, figuring out, okay, if Puma wants to go from this market share to this market share, well, who are the people in the marketplace that can, again, have the same vision and same shared business values and whatnot, and be like our best of the best partners. So yeah, so we place a lot of stake, I would say, in the retailer marketplace as a source of partners as well.
And it's interesting to see how many brands are shifting or getting away from bullshitting customers and
Mhm.
trying to focus on authenticity.
Mhm.
And because I guess customers are more informed than ever, so they
Yes.
realize whenever you're trying to play with their minds with something that they feel that it's not authentic, they usually get away from it.
Yeah.
So authenticity, it's a super
Hugely
strong thing.
important.
Yeah. Now let's talk a little bit about targets and segments.
Mhm.
So uh, last year, you expanded the She Moves Us brand campaign globally, celebrating everything that it's about females, strength, beauty, inspiration, and everything in between. So, how does Puma identify and prioritize target customers when developing its marketing strategies?
Yeah, that's a great example of, I think, how we approach the female customer base. And I think what we've done is we used to do a lot of clinical consumer work, probably like most, which is like, what's the demographic and how often do they shop and things along those lines. So very like quant related. And that's still super valuable for us. Like, we need to know like purchasing patterns and things along those lines. But I think what we've also done when it comes to our consumer segmentation is we look at, especially on the women's side, we look at it through the lens of life stages. So if you think about, you know, a young girl who's 8 years old, well, what is she doing at that point in her life? And who is influencing her? And what are the right ways to reach her? And then as she gets into her teenage years and then her 20s and her 30s, like, we look at like, what is the life stages of that customer? So in addition to like, they purchase Puma once a year and they have a threshold price hold of this and that and the other, and here's where they live and demographic, we try to really deeply understand like what they're going through on a day-to-day basis and what the different sources of influences are, because we've found that to be a much more, I'd say, relevant way for our marketing strategies to connect to our consumers. And the She Moves Us game was a perfect example of that. You know, that campaign was inspired by, you know, again, celebrating women in all shapes and sizes and races and areas, but through the lens of like, you know, what she's doing on a day-to-day basis and her life stages. And yeah, it's been great to help us reconnect with our female audience.
And just to make a parallel here, a few months ago in Las Vegas, I had the chance to do the same thing, the fireside
Mhm.
chat with the CMO of Zappos, and she was saying how for them demographics are dead. They basically don't use it. For them, it's all about jobs to be done and how they can frame marketing position around the jobs to be done. And it's interesting that for a sports brand, it's a little bit different. For you guys, it's still important, like age, it's still important, the gender. So those demographic factors are important, but also you need to explore the angle and the jobs to be done and match, kind of blend everything together to create a neat strategy, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. Because, at the end of the day, we are a company that creates product, right? So you need to know, like, are you creating kids product? Are you creating product for a woman, for a male, for, a different community? And, we're exploring a lot of different, like, kind of different segments now. But yeah, so we, as I said, we still definitely design for, I think, certain types of demographics, let's say, but at the same time, the way that we connect with them and reach them is through a much more holistic, I would say, like, quant and qual approach. Yeah.
And it's very interesting to see how there's no such a thing as one size fits all when it comes to success. So Zappa is a very successful brand, and Puma as
Unbelievably.
well.
Yep.
And what works for one might not work for the other one.
Yep.
So it's very very interesting. How in the end of the day, it's all about delivering value to your customer and what your
Right.
customers are expecting their jobs to be done, and what works for one might not work for the other. Um, Another topic. I'm not sure how are we in time. I think you're good. Okay. So metrics and results. Whether it's your brand or the products you offer,
Yep.
how does Puma measure the success of its efforts to align with customer value?
Yeah, so we have a lot of macro KPIs as well as then KPIs that really are tied to customer value. And I'd say some of the macro KPIs are things that we're probably all very familiar with. What's our level of brand awareness? Are we a liked brand or a loved brand? What's the aptitude to people to feel that the Puma brand is like part of who they are and their identity? So we have all sorts of great KPIs and metrics around that part of it. And we use that to determine, customer lifetime value for sure. But then we also have over the past, I'd say, few years, really started to get into like modeling and then also, determining, okay, if we have people who are purchasing once, how do we get them to purchase twice, and how do we build that customer lifetime value? So we now have like a team of like analytical people that are just focused on that, as well as then also just a lot of different tools that I think are helping us. But at the end of the day, I feel like for us, it's just like being very consistent with who we are, putting really good product into the marketplace that people can rely on and that they feel like is like trend right and like relates to them, having it in places distributed that they can really connect, and then just being able to consistently interact with them and just keep them part of our brand. So those are basic ingredients, nothing shocking, but things that if you don't do them, you have no there's no value there for customers.
Okay. The next question is, at Worthix, we're obsessed with the concept of transient advantage, which is basically a company's ability to launch new strategic initiatives again and again and again. And your mission is, again, forever faster. So the question is, how do you ensure timely insights and speedy execution at Puma, considering the size of your organization
Yeah.
and this request of the market for speed?
Yeah. Um, I love the whole transient kind of verbiage too, by the way. Very, very good. Good job, Worthix.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm into it. I'm into it. The
From the outset,
yes.
yeah,
The marketeer in me likes the wording.
trying to deliver
Yeah.
customer value here.
Definitely. No, I think, we're in an industry that I think all of you guys probably are aware, like it can move very fast. So fast fashion, my God, in addition to what it's doing to the world, that's a topic for another day. Um, but I mean, like, there are brands and organizations that have the ability to kind of like look at something and produce it and have it on shelf like 4 to 6 weeks later. That's really really fast. We are not that fast, but we have become a lot faster, and I think a lot of that has to do with everything from like supply chain processes to flattening organization decision making to getting really sharp about who our customers are and our product propositions, to developing, I would say, different design resources that can actually act a little bit quicker, different localized actually team members that are really dedicated to like reacting to the trends in the market, not necessarily looking only at like the global macro trends. So we've had to do a lot as an organization, I think, to try to set ourselves up to actually be a little bit more transient and be able to, actually respond to the market trends as much as we can. But the forever faster principle is to do that. We want to be, fast to react to needs from our customers, needs from our partners, needs from the world. So a lot of effort has gone into creating solutions to be able to do that. Yeah.
Amazing. Final question,
Yes.
because I think there's a lot of curiosity in the room around that. So, you guys did great with basketball in 2022, and today we're here at an F1 event. So, why is Puma here and with F1 Motorsport, and what's coming next?
Yeah, it's a very exciting day. I'm going to be here for probably about another 10 minutes or so. For big picture, a few things. I think most of you guys hopefully know that Puma has had a long-standing heritage actually in motorsport. So this is not just like a new category in space for us. And up until now, a lot of it has been mostly about, again, working with some of the best teams in the world and the drivers and really being one of like, the biggest suppliers of product across the industry. So that's been a long-standing heritage. We've also had great lifestyle motorsport product, and that's been really exciting. So I would say, growth of like motorsport fan base, especially in North America, has really heightened our ability to kind of invest even more in the sport. So one of the biggest reasons our team is not only here for the Grand Prix itself, and again supporting all of our existing partners, is 8 a.m. this morning we did announce a global partnership directly with F1. So Puma and F1 are now also direct partners, and what we announced is that we're going to be starting to create F1 licensed merchandise that will come out in 24. And we're going to have a lot of, I would say, great external cultural partners that are going to help to design that product. And so we're really, really excited to help not only continue supporting our teams, but actually partnering directly with F1 to just, give the motorsport community even more product and more opportunity to kind of, be part of the sport. So that release went out this morning at 8 a.m. It's getting a great response. We're really excited for the rest of this weekend for that to be a big part of, everything that we do. And yeah, this afternoon we have a nice press conference that will release all sorts of other great content that I'm sure hopefully everyone will see. Yeah.
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 And as a Formula One fan, I appreciate that, because whenever you're trying to buy gear for Formula One, it's usually only from the
With
teams. The
teams.
ones for F1 is just a very limited set of things. So that's going to be great to see.
Yeah, it'll be really good. So keep your eye out, 2024, that'll all start to come out. I'm sorry? We have a motorsport business unit. Yep, that's already kind of allocating resources to that. Yeah. So yes, there's some good future things that'll come out of the new direct partnership.
Questions? Do you have time for questions? Okay.
Ooh, lovely. Very good. Yeah, great question. And the marketplace is tough. That is for damn sure. Um, we have created, I would call it, a little bit of a strategic mantra called fewer, bigger, better. Meaning that one of the biggest things we actually started doing last year and are really continuing to do this year because of the economic environment is go, what are the most absolute critical important things? And those are the things that we're going to prioritize. And we have to get rid of a lot of the small shit that doesn't actually move the needle. A lot of it has to do purely with like prioritizing and doing fewer things, but doing them bigger and doing them better. And that's really helped to, I would say, keep the marketing dollars on the right things, and make sure that we're not losing traction in the places that are the most like strategic. And I think that that's really, definitely helped us a lot. And then, to be honest, we're very focused right now on building our brand awareness, but then also really hyper focused on also like getting people to love our brand. So I also think the other thing that's helping us in a turbulent economic environment is like not trying to market too many ways. Like we're really focused again on like certain parts of the, funnel, let's say. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So we just started working with YouGov. So they're kind of our new data partner, and we've developed this really great brand tracking tool with like a certain set of, just basically statements that we're kind of like really tracking now. So we have a much more, I would call it consistent, like quantifiable approach to like, are we moving from a liked brand to a love brand? And it's things like you can imagine, like, the Puma brand gets me. I would, recommend the Puma brand to others. I feel like I see the Puma brand and it relates to my day to day. So that tracking mechanism, believe it or not, as clinical as that sounds, has actually been a really like big like way that we've invested in it. And then we have a few also agency partners that help us a lot as well, just that are also experts in like, is your brand loved or not? So we never used to do that. So much of it was like, we think people love us, like, yay, look at it, or like our market share has grown, so people must love us. And that's not the case. That's not the way it works. So anyway, so we also have had really good success. I think just bringing external experts, quite frankly, to the table to just give us like better guidance on how to really measure it. Yeah. Sure. So I think, again, like awareness for us is a really big priority, specifically unaided awareness right now, to be honest. We have a really, really good, I would say, I think, what are we at? 88 or 90% awareness, which is it's good for us, not as much of our competitors, but that's good. But it drops pretty significantly when we get to unaided. And then honestly, it drops a lot when we get to the conversion side. So we kind of like, we're trying to essentially, let's call it, increase the top part of the funnel a little bit, but get people a lot kind of quicker, I would say, to the conversion piece of it without losing as many people along the way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, so when the W series existed, actually Puma was the partner, because I think we're a brand that really believes in equality in sport. So any sport that we get into, we always look at it through both genders. So for instance, when we got back into basketball, we're like, we're not only going to create signature basketball shoes for men, like we're going to also work with Brianna Stewart and create like the first female signature basketball shoe. So it was similar for motorsport. So even though the W series right now, is on pause, like we're hopeful that a women's motorsport proposition comes back. We still actually support a bunch of female drivers. One of them is actually going to be, part of our panel this afternoon to talk about, women in sports. And believe it or not, we actually do see a lot of females who are now, at least in North America, getting into motorsport because of the Drive to Survive series. And so we're seeing a nice shift of just like fans that are coming in on the women's side. So yeah, so I think we'll see where the overall, sport goes, but as a brand, we're committed to kind of, making sure that we've got a support for both areas in whatever way that they can exist. Yeah. Yeah.
Gentlemen there, been a while. Yeah, you. No, no, you.
Fewer, bigger, better. Yeah. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, there is. We're really excited for that milestone. I think for the culture in general, it's a huge, big deal in the sneaker community too. We have 4 or 5 different, I would call it like collaborations that we're going to be releasing around the hip hop 50th milestone that are all rooted in, yeah, deep like cultural connection to the hip hop world. Some of them are artists from the past. Some of them are, designers of today. But all of them have like an authentic thread, to, I would call it, the fabric of hip hop. And that's kind of like the angle that we're playing. So we are absolutely celebrating that milestone. We're supporting a lot of the, champions that created hip hop culture and that, we can help to celebrate. And we're lucky that our brand was always kind of an authentic part of it. So we're going to do a lot about like just reminding people like where hip hop culture started and why it's so powerful. So there'll be a lot of storytelling around that too. But yeah, it's a big one, definitely.
So much. Thanks,
Thank you,
Allison.
thank you, thank you. Thank you all.